Hi guys, how we doing? I'm live. How's everyone doing today? Welcome. If you don't know me, like I always say, I'm Kelly from spiritualawakeningsigns.com, and I help people like you to move through spiritual awakening as easily as possible with reduced symptoms. So that's the main aim, is always to make those symptoms much easier to manage, because it's definitely not easy. And like I always say at the beginning of every video, if you haven't had the 5-day free course that will help you move through these challenging experiences and reduce your symptoms, then get on that. So spiritualawakeningsigns.com, completely free. And I made it on purpose to make sure everyone has access to this information. It's vital if you want to change the signs and symptoms. So today we're going to focus on overwhelm. Overwhelm is something that I experienced often throughout my awakening journey. Wasn't entirely clear on exactly what it was, so I didn't really recognise it when it came up. But it is a very difficult symptom to deal with. And overwhelm is one of these feelings that kind of takes you to the edge. It can make you feel like you're on the verge of a breakdown, like you can't cope, you're completely exhausted. It can even take you into that state, you know, when you're really dazed and you just can't make sense and you can't really respond. There's a lot of brain fog. You become completely paralysed. These are all important things that we want to make sure we are moving through. And that's going to be the focus of what we're doing today, because it should never take you to the point where you feel that you're in a crisis, or that you're having a breakdown, or that it's awful. We don't want that. So we're going to move through it today for you. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit of my experience of overwhelm throughout the awakening journey, of which I had many. Overwhelm was quite a consistent theme for me, and really difficult. I'm sure you guys will be able to relate. So for me, I found overwhelm affected me mostly initially round about the full moon. So anytime we had a full moon, a new moon, any type of astrological event, I would have this incredible feeling inside me. And it would usually start with a sense of anxiety. And the whole day I'd be getting all jumbled up and all riled up and wondering what was wrong. And then as the day would go on, I would start to feel extremely sensitive. And as that sensitivity increased, I would become more and more distraught, because I'd be trying to do things to fix it and wouldn't be able to fix it. By which point, later on in the day, after it had built over the day, this energy was charging me up. By night time, I would be usually crying. I would be in tears, feeling tormented. It's a really peculiar feeling. It's as if the environment is so noisy and so chaotic, but you could be sitting in a really calm environment. But internally, it feels like everything's going crazy. And there was many times I was crying and really just so distraught, wondering why I felt so charged and so overwhelmed and so exhausted. You know, I just couldn't get a break from it. That was overwhelmed. So if you're experiencing any of that, you know, I can speak lightheartedly about it now, but at the time it was absolutely awful, and I don't want any of you guys going through that. Hi guys, thanks for saying hello. Hi. So yeah, we're going to get into it today. We don't want you crying, we don't want you harassed, we don't want you having breakdowns or losing cognitive function, feeling confused, feeling spaced out. None of those things. We want to bring lots of calm into the experience to make it a bit more manageable, and that's going to be the focus today, okay? Because we can do that. It's easy to do, and you don't have to live with it, okay? It's important that you know that if you've already been experiencing these difficult signs and symptoms, that there's nothing wrong with you. It's natural, it's common. Most of us go through that at some point throughout the awakening experience, so don't beat yourself up. It's totally natural, but it can be changed, and that's what we're going to focus on in this video today. Okay, so there are 3 main reasons why your spiritual awakening is overwhelming. So if you're at that point where you're feeling that you're verging on crisis, breakdown, overwhelm, can't cope, there are 3 main reasons why you are driven to that point during spiritual awakening, okay? And when I explain these, I think you'll understand a bit better why that's happening in the first place. So the first reason that we've got is because of our emotional sensitivity. So like I'm sure you'll be able to recognise within yourself, when we go through awakening, our emotional sensitivity hits the roof. It goes as high as it possibly can, and we become really emotionally volatile. So emotions come up, they're very intense, they're very overwhelming, very powerful, And they come up in places and from things that we feel that we have no control over. So they're happening all the time. So it's really important that you know that that is a natural part and it has a purpose. Okay, so when those emotions are coming up for you, the reason that it's so heightened and so sensitive is because what we can feel, we can heal. So that's the whole purpose of this emotional sensitivity getting so high, is so that you will feel these feelings in your body, and from that place you'll be empowered to do something about it. You'll be empowered to heal and release it, and that's really important. So there's nothing wrong with you if you're experiencing emotional sensitivity. It's a natural part of the journey. But if you're getting into that state where you're feeling emotional all the time and you're getting really triggered and it's extremely overpowering and you can't cope with it, that's just too much, and we need to do something about that, which we absolutely will. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, also it stops us from hiding from issues that have maybe come up from lifetimes before. So people quite often ask me, why is it so intense? Well, it's not only that our emotional sensitivity is much higher, but it's also the fact that you've probably been through the same experience a million times. So, you know, where you would maybe feel a little bit irritated with a certain situation, you feel completely exasperated. And quite often the emotion doesn't seem to fit the experience that you're having. It seems like, why am I having such a powerful reaction? Okay, so don't be afraid if that's happening. It's natural. It's also very demanding. Okay, so the second reason why your awakening is really overwhelming is because we've got this heightened empathy. Okay, so like the first one with the heightened emotions, it's a natural part of the journey. It's a par for the course. But this heightened empathy starts to create situations in our life where we're triggered by other people, by experiences that come into our lives. And again, it can seem to feel like the emotion doesn't fit the experience. It's like, why am I so upset over this thing that's happened? It seems out of alignment. Well, it's not. It's there on purpose. And a lot of people usually ask me, they say, you know, why is it that? A common question that I get asked. But when you start to feel that in your body, it's a reflection of what's going on inside of you. And it took me a really long time to feel that, because I was convinced that I was taking on everyone else's stuff and being stuck with carrying it. That's not what the universe is doing. The universe is trying to direct your awareness to where you kind of reflect that person's pain and where it already exists in you. Healing, releasing those things, they don't reflect in the same way. So for example, for me now, I never pick up anyone else's stuff. And at one point in life, I was hiding in my bedroom so that I wouldn't bump into anyone, talk to anyone, because I just knew I would pick up all their things. But now that I'm clear, it doesn't happen at all. So it was highlighting to me, you know, where those pains and those issues were in me. So for example, if you're picking up on someone's, let's say, chest pain, you can feel it in your lung, it's probably not a physical chest pain that you're processing, it's probably grief. Or if you're picking up on someone's heart pain and you tune into that, it's probably because there's old heartbreak and devastation there, and the pain's resonating, and the universe is saying, deal with it, let's get this cleared, let's get it moved. So it can feel like a blessing and a curse, because the universe is giving you the keys to your ascension. It's showing you exactly what you need to heal to move forward. But it can be frustrating as well, because, you know, you're having to deal with it in the first place. So don't worry, it does get better and it does move. And I'm always going to be sharing material to help you guys move through all of these different stages. But there are things that we can do to reduce that empathy. Particularly if you're at the point where you're so super sensitive that it's hard to watch the news or movies, or, you know, hear real life stories about people. It could even be that you're just picking up vibes. Some people just pick up vibes and it's like a kind of ick vibe, and you don't know quite why you're getting it. You don't quite understand that yet. Okay, third reason why you're awakening is overwhelming, is your psychic senses. Okay, so this should be one that everyone can really relate to. They're completely changed as a result of this experience. And they'll always be really open. You'll always be that clear divine channel right up through the crown to source. But the challenge that we get is that it can open us up to all these new experiences and all these difficulties that we didn't have before. It's like gaining an extra sense and literally all of a sudden being unable to really deal with all the extra information that's coming into our system. So we're already dealing with all these new emotions. That's enough to take on. then we're also dealing with this new empathy that's so highly sensitive that it's actually hard to be around people, hard to hear. And then to add to it, we've got this new sense that is opening up all these, new experiences and new information, a lot of which we don't understand at first, because we get a feeling or a vibe or an energy, and we're like, what is that? I can't get rid of it, and I don't know what it is. By which point our systems become burnt out. Of course they become burnt out. It's too much information, too much to take in, and we can get to the point where we're either completely spaced out. Like, people would ask me questions and I could hardly make my brain think of an answer. It was so foggy. All the way through to, feeling really emotional and feeling like you can't take any more. That's really what you're looking for. If you feel like you can't take any more and you come into crisis point, you're just way too overwhelmed, and we want to do something about that pronto. Okay, so let me see, I'm just going to say a quick hello because I saw some comments coming up. Okay, Laurie, hi Sabine. Laurie's saying she cries at the drop of a hat. You're not alone. Happens to all of us throughout the awakening process. And it's actually good to get these emotions out. Let's see, Rebecca Ann, what happens if it's the opposite to other people reading you? Clarify what you mean in the questions, Rebecca. I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Let's see, anyone else? Devon, this is exactly what you needed to hear today. I'm so glad. Hi Beatrice, hi Tracy, hi Jeffrey, everyone. Hi Taras, good. Saying hi to everyone, fab. Okay, so like I said before, these are all natural experiences. By natural I mean that they are common. I don't mean that you have to suffer them. They're just common. Everyone goes through them, and it's kind of par for the course as we're learning to straddle these two worlds. It's like we've got a foot in each camp and we're kind of, I don't know if I can balance this yet. And it takes a bit of getting used to. And naturally, as part of that, we're going to wobble. We're going to bobble about until we find our steadiness, and then we're rooted, and we're going to stay in that position for a long, long time. And that important thing is having that stability. So there are things that we can do. So let's see, let me check, I haven't missed anything out. Good. So grounding is going to improve those three main things, because they're the main things that are making you feel overwhelmed, burnt out, exhausted, okay? Grounding, when we're talking about emotional sensitivity, grounding is the thing that is going to turn that emotional sensitivity down just a little bit, okay? So instead of it being extremely intense, and instead of you being overpowered by that emotion when it comes up and those feelings, down a little bit. So it means that emotionally you'll have a bit more stability. You won't be as quick to be so volatile, I guess is the best word. It'll be a little bit smoother. So that's the number one thing we want to do, is get that emotional sensitivity back down into a normal level. Otherwise, so many emotions are going to come up at once that you're not going to be able to make sense of it. Okay, so that's important. With heightened empathy, grounding will tune it down, again, just a little bit. Okay, because we don't need to be that empathic. We're already very compassionate beings. This is why we're here. We're here to help. We're here with a life purpose. We already know where we're going and what we're doing on a soul level. We don't really need to develop any more compassion than we've already got. Most of us will get too much. But it's about learning to balance it out, and that's really what grounding will do. It's about bringing it back down to a level that is manageable and compatible with normal daily living. And what it'll also do is it'll stop that emotional triggering from happening so frequently. So if you're finding that it's just one emotion after another, and you're really in the place where you can't stop it, you can't slow it down, and you're in bits over it, you need grounding. Definitely, there is nothing else I will recommend. Grounding is the key to making that so much better. And it'll take away that little bit of sensitivity that's, too far over the spectrum. We just want to have enough compassion and sensitivity that we can tune into people if we're doing healing, if we're connecting. We don't need to be that open, okay? And for your psychic senses, it'll tone your psychic senses down a bit, but you'll still have that really clear connection, because your psychic senses are already 10 times more open than the average person who is not spiritually awake. But the problem is that we've been blasted open, and we're not always really ready for that psychic influx of information. So if you're having experience, understand that, that would be an indicator to me that your psychic senses are more open than you're actually ready for just at this moment. So if you can ground that energy a little bit, you'll find that it balances out and you have a better understanding of what's happening to you, which is really, really important. And also you'll be able to make more sense of those psychic experiences, because that's the point. You know, if you're having psychic information coming in, you want to be able to utilise it. It needs to be beneficial to your life or to other people's lives in some way. And if you're too open and it doesn't make any sense and it's all jumbled up, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. Okay? So, focusing on grounding, there are two. One is the physical. We've got to do the physical grounding. Okay? And this is a tough one to explain, because I get a lot of emails from people all the time telling me they're having the same experience that I had. They're saying, I'm trying to ground myself, I'm doing all these things to ground myself, and it's not working. Okay? That was exactly what happened to me. So if you're grounding yourself and it's not working, and you're following that guidance in the 5-day course, which is, you have to be following that guidance, really, really important. If you're already doing that and it's not working, then something's missing. And the issue, I always talk about being the bridge between heaven and earth. Okay, there's that spiritual component that's wakening up, and there's this physical component. And we need to balance those two things, otherwise grounding won't work. And if grounding doesn't work, we can't make any experience any smoother. So we need to be able to balance those two worlds. So we want to balance physical grounding with energy grounding. Because you need to remember, this is like a DNA upgrade that we're getting, the likes of which has never been seen before in high vibrational energy. And quite often your energies are just as confused as you are. There's sometimes a sense in the soul that says, I don't really know what to do with this new energy. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with it. I don't know how to integrate it. Am I supposed to put it through me? Do I hold on to it? There's confusion there. And what we really need to do is make sure that we are teaching the energies how to integrate with the new energy that's coming through. Okay, so we do that with downloads. So you'll have seen in the videos before, I did lots of downloads, energy healing. These downloads are programs that teach your energies what to do. They're just putting that structure and support in place to make sure that it can support you throughout your awakening journey. So I'm going to talk through some different ways that you can do that, but mainly the physical grounding is going to be the stuff that's in the free course, the free 5-day course. Is all the grounding information you need for physical grounding. Okay? Then we need to look at energy grounding, which you can get through I've got videos. If you look through the timeline, if this is on Facebook, you'll see old videos that we've done. Lots of nice energy downloads in there to show you how to ground your energies, to teach your energies how to assimilate the new energy, to teach your energies how to process it without becoming anxious or overwhelmed, to tone down your sensitivity. The downloads are a literal game changer. They absolutely transformed my awakening, because I was trying to ground myself all the time and nothing was working. Absolutely you need that grounding on both aspects of the scale so that you can come together as one. Okay, because there are two halves to it, so it's really important. So like I say, you can get them through the videos before. If it's YouTube, have a little scroll through, look through, subscribe to the channel so that you get the updates. But I do downloads quite frequently, and get those downloads into your system that will help itself. It'll make things much easier. If you want more help with it, I've got my new course coming out, which is a 7-day energy healing download course. And basically it's all focused around reducing your symptoms, grounding your energies on both halves, and kind of programming it to support you as you move further. It's not ready just yet, but I'll be updating you guys with the details of the course when it comes out, and keeping you posted. So let's see, is there anything else I need to cover? I'm sure this keeps jumping. Is everyone noticing this? Someone else is saying it's jumping, a little jump. I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's some energy coming through for you guys. Right, let's see if there's anything else I have missed. No, that feels quite total. So if there's any questions you'd like to ask, pop them in the comments. Try not to make them too long, because sometimes I can't read the whole comment on my phone. But ask questions and I'll be happy to answer a few before we finish up. But that's the main things you need to know. Overwhelm is caused by emotional sensitivity being really, really high, and then those psychic senses being really, really open. Too much information with the system, can't take it. And not only does that lead to sometimes that physical breakdown, But it's a mental breakdown as well, because we just can't keep up with that. It's absolutely exhausting and very draining. So if you're going through that, like I said, 2 ways to ground. One is the physical grounding, where you can remove a lot of spiritual stimulus from your space, which I would really advise you to do. If you're not sure about it, look at the free course. But a lot of spiritual stimulus, anything that will charge your energy or alter your energy in any way, crystals, meditation, yoga, you want to take a break from that for a few weeks, just to let your energy settle back down. That's your physical grounding. And then your energetic grounding, you want to look into getting some downloads if your system doesn't know how to do it. If you're flowing through the awakening process easily, you don't need downloads. But if it's challenging, if you've got symptoms that really, really helped me, I still remember the first time somebody did a download to kind of hit that aspect. And I'm sure I've spoken about it before, but someone did a download for me and I was completely broken. I'd been through my awakening experience and I was just feeling battered and bruised, feeling really sorry for myself. And I went to this session and the lady said to me, oh, you don't know how to ground yourself on the physical level, so let's just put that download in your system. I was like, okay. And the minute she did it, the minute that energy came down from Creator and told my energies how to do that, I had a sense of security that I hadn't felt for years, literally years since my awakening began. It was like suddenly I felt like I'd bumped back down into my body and everything was going to be okay. So if you're struggling with that kind of thing, downloads, it's hard to explain what it's like, but it really does make such a big difference. Okay, so let me, if it's the opposite of other people reading you, I don't know if I see. Only had bits and pieces of that, but it's been my experience. Others just know a bit of you somehow. I'm not entirely clear on what that means. If you mean other people reading you, that shouldn't make any difference to your overwhelm. You need to be cautious sometimes with what you take in from other people, because it can add to the stress of the situation. And I know, because I went to a few psychics and things throughout my awakening experience, and you need to remember this stuff's always filtered through someone else's perspective. So that's why I always say, you know, when we're working, I work with Creator, so the 7th plane of existence, because otherwise if you use a certain modality or you use other things, you just want that clear truth from Creator. You don't want to have to filter it through anything. Let's see if there's any other questions. Sorry Laurie, yeah, the video was jumping. I don't know what's going on. It might be because I've not done any downloads. The energy's trying to get through, so just be open to it. Let me just see if there's anything else. So Rebecca's just talking about, yeah, other people knowing something about you but you didn't tell them. People reading you. Yeah. Sometimes these things have a vibe as well, because you're picking up on that person's stuff. So even though they're reading you, you're picking up on the energy of their stuff, or the modality that they use, or the religion that they follow. These things all have a vibe. Kat, how do you ground yourself? Okay, so like I said before, I always talk about grounding. Actually, the best thing that you can do during out of your space. So while you can ground yourself with things like tea tree oil, that's the only oil that I would recommend you use. So if you're very sensitive, I wouldn't go messing around with oils, but tea tree oil is safe. You can use food is really grounding, fat and meat, drastic times, drastic measures. If you're really ungrounded, meat can be really grounding. And also walking barefoot can help as well. But what I've found is that unless you have those downloads in place, or unless your system's already sure of how to ground itself, you'll find that quite often these things either don't work, they don't last, or they make you feel worse. And sometimes it's just unexplained why these things charge us so much through awakening. We're just so sensitive. So my best advice is to avoid certain things that are going to stimulate you. Things like crystals, oils, meditation, yoga, spiritual practices, energy healing. You need to be really careful with these things, because they just are so charging and stimulating to us, and it can be too much. So just watch out for that. Sometimes 2 weeks even off of these simple grounding techniques definitely makes a difference. Let's see, Japneet, is that the right way to say that? How do we differentiate between good and bad influence? I'm not sure if you're talking about in reference to grounding or other people. If it's grounding, if it's spiritually charging, stay away from it. Just give yourself a break. You can go back to it later. Just take a break. If you're talking about influence of other people, you'll be really awakened at the moment, and you'll have a sense of what's right for you and what isn't. Even like when we're doing these videos, I know that people watch the videos that feel really in alignment with it. So if you're watching something, connecting to someone, something doesn't feel right, step back. But also it can be past life stuff coming up, so just be cautious of that, because when you're emotionally triggered like this, these things kind of are up at the surface, and it can make it a little bit confusing to know what's actually my guidance and what's just my stuff coming up. Let's see what else we've got. Hi Jeannie, how you doing? That's good. No problem. The downloads really will help, and there's loads. I've done a good few of them. If you look through the timeline or on the YouTube channel, you'll see loads of them, and they really do make a difference. What's a demode? The word I keep mentioning. I don't know what word you're talking about. Unfortunately, the Scottish accent is not great for videos, so I'm really sorry if there's something that I'm not clarifying well, but you can always ask a question at the end, and I'll do my best to clarify exactly what it is. Sorry, it's the classic Scottish accent. I do my best. Right guys, I think that's us done for today. I just wanted this to be a little short one. Stay posted, because next week I'm planning one on what is happening, guys. Literally the energy is on fire, on emotions. So I think that'll be really key for everyone. I'm really excited to do that. So let's get focused on that and see what we can improve. But do the grounding, www.spiritualawakeningsigns.com. Learn what it is you need to avoid, use the things that are going to ground you, and then have a look through and get some of those energy downloads in place to really help you through this awakening process. It will make such a difference. Thanks a lot for joining.